Once upon a time, in a far-off kingdom, there was a young girl called Nsugbe. She was known for her bravery and kindness, and everyone in the kingdom loved her. One day, a great evil befell the kingdom, a terrible disease which swept through the land, and many people fell ill and died. The king, who was Nsugbe's father, was beside himself with grief. He knew that he had to do something to save his people. Other calamities also befell them, like drought and other things. So he needed to do something to save his people. The king called for the oldest and wisest man who could see into the future to find out the cause and solution to the problem. The old man consulted his dibia and told him the people of the kingdom had offended the gods of the land by deviating from the sacred path laid out for them. They were not supposed to go to the farm on Eke market days, but they were all now going to the farm. That day was a day set aside for the gods of the land, who came out on that Eke day to search for food and do other good things in the world. But because of their deeds, the gods no longer could perform their duties and were hungry and angry, so decided to punish the people of the land. The repercussions of it all were the illnesses and sufferings placed on the people. The king was shocked by the revelation, but it was true. The villagers were now going to the farm on Eke day, which was Eke meant for market and rest at home and to serve the gods. He was shaking because he knew the wrath of the gods was a terrible one. Please beg the gods for a solution, because we cannot stand a wrath, said the king as he looked pleadingly at the wise one. The old wise man consulted his dibia again and shook his head. "O king, it is too difficult to do," he said. "Tell me, O wise one," the king replied. "I promise we shall find a way to appease them to save the entire kingdom." The wise man consulted his dibia again and told him of a magical pot that was said to have the power to cure any illness. The pot was hidden deep in the heart of a dense forest, guarded by fierce creatures and dark magic. The pot must be brought by a virgin. Throughout the journey, she must neither eat nor drink water, and if she was able to get the pot, it was to be broken at the king's feet, and an oath and commitment will be taken by the villagers never to go to the farm on forest on Eke days again. Secondly, the virgin that will go on the mission, if accomplished, will stay unmarried for the rest of her life. And after all that was done, peace will reign once again in the kingdom. The king knew that he had to send someone to retrieve that very pot being talked about, but didn't know who could do it. The villagers were all assembled and told what the gods had said. All the maidens were brought out and told that one of them needed to volunteer to go on the journey. But unfortunately, no one agreed to go on that very journey. The king was surprised. All the village maidens were afraid after they had been told about the difficulties of the journey and were not ready to make the sacrifice to lose their joy for such a thing. People were sick and dying in the village, and no one thought of helping. No one thought of helping out to alleviate the suffering of the masses, the king thought, shaking his head sorrowfully. As hope was almost lost, Nsugbe, the king's only daughter, and child stepped forward and volunteered to go on the mission. All the villagers in the kingdom were shocked. The king was hesitant to let his only daughter and child, to go on such a dangerous journey. But Nsugbe was determined. She knew that she was the only one who could save her people, and she would not rest until she had the magical pot in her hands. Finally, the heartbroken king agreed to allow his only child to go on the mission. He gave her a sword and was prepared. The next day, she set out on her journey, armed only with his sword, her courage and her love for the kingdom. She traveled through treacherous terrain, fighting off dangerous creatures and overcoming seemingly impossible obstacles. Finally, after many days of traveling, Nsugbe arrived at the heart of the forest. She found the magical pot where it had been described. But as she reached out to grab it, a voice boomed out, "Who dares to take the pot of the magic?" Nsugbe stood tall and proudly declared, "I am Nsugbe, daughter of the king of this land. I have come to take the magical pot and save my people from these terrible diseases." The voice laughed, "Ha, ha, 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 ha," and dark magic swirled around Nsugbe, but she stood firm. For 5 days now, she had been walking down in the forest, down lonely paths and hills and mountains. She had neither eaten nor drunk water. She was stumbling and tired, but she must accomplish the purpose of her journey. And so, with her fierce determination, Nsugbe fought off the magic and claimed the pot. Nsugbe returned to her kingdom with the magical pot, and the worried king and her people rejoiced as they saw her coming, stumbling towards them, tired with the magical pot clenched in her hands. The king, overwhelmed, was shedding tears. Everyone was crying. Finally, the king sat down and the magical pot was smashed at his feet. The assembled villagers took the oath that they will never go to the farm or forest again on an Eke day. From that day, the diseases that had been ravaging the land stopped, and soon everyone was healthy and happy once again. The king was so proud of his daughter and grateful for all she had sacrificed and done. Nsugbe had saved her kingdom from destruction, and she had proved that bravery and determination and love can conquer even the darkest of evils. After Nsugbe had saved her kingdom from the terrible disease, she became a hero in the eyes of her people. The news of her bravery and selflessness spread far and wide, and people from neighboring kingdoms came to visit her and to offer her gratitude. The king was very proud of his daughter and declared a great feast in her honor. People came from all over the land celebrating Nsugbe's bravery and to thank her for saving their lives. At the feast, Nsugbe was presented with many gifts, including a beautiful gown made of the finest kente material and a crown made of pure gold. But Nsugbe was happiest when she saw the smiles on the faces of her people. Nsugbe took over the rulership of the kingdom from her father when he was no more, and from that day on, Nsugbe was known throughout the kingdom as a heroine and a symbol of hope. She continued to work tirelessly to make her kingdom a better place, and she always put the needs of her people before her own. She never married, as was said. She sacrificed everything for her people. Years later, years went by, and Nsugbe grew into a wise and beloved queen. She ruled her kingdom with fairness and compassion, and her people continued to look up to her as a shining example of what it means to be brave and selfless. When Nsugbe finally passed away, the people of the kingdom mourned her deeply, but they also celebrated her life and all that she had accomplished. They knew that Nsugbe had made a difference in their lives, and they will never forget her bravery and her love for her people. That is the end of the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos